Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Watier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Watier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey Scott, how are you?
Doing fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's conversation. We're going to be doing a listener Q&A. We've had an inordinate amount of questions come in recently, so we're going to get to a handful of them efficiently, quickly, and also landing the plane with some action steps that you can take away. We like to choose these questions that can apply to like the general population, common questions, common concerns, common fears, common myths, and some new things that we've never actually talked about in detail, or at least that we can recall after 300 plus episodes. So we'll get into that in just a minute. If you are new to the podcast, welcome in. Thanks for giving us a shot. Thanks for joining us on our fasting lifestyle journey. If you want to know more about Tommy, more about myself, and our journey with fasting and how it transformed our lives, head back to episode 0, episode 1. Give it a listen. It'll give you a little bit of insight into why we do what we do week in and week out with the podcast, with our challenges, our resources. All the links that you could ever need for resources are in the show notes if you want to head there after you listen. But excited to have you with us. If you're a long-term listener, thank you so much for the likes, rates, reviews, shares. And we have a couple shout-outs that we'll give here. We'll do one this episode and one next episode, a couple of new 5-star reviews. Yes. So we want to give you a shout-out for thank you for taking the time to leave us a positive review. This comes from JD1. And it's titled, sticks to the title, subject, incredibly informative, and keeps it short.
All right.
Most times. Sometimes we go a little long. But 5-star review says, I've been doing IF for a while, but decided to get serious for weight loss and autophagy. I'm in my 60s. Have terrible PCOS, part of an insulin-resistant diabetes journey. Since starting, I've lost over 40 pounds, but most importantly, my health has steadily been improving, and I'm off all meds but one.
Wow. Incredible.
I want to give you a 5-star review, JD1.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I keep wanting to say Jedi 1, but JD 1.
Right, yeah.
This show covers every question I've had so far. My current goal is 72-hour fast weekly with OMAD, awesome. The rest, and periodic longer fast. I'm a new listener and plan on going over all the old podcasts. Well, you have quite the journey ahead of you. Congratulations. We're going to reciprocate and give you a 5-star review.
5 stars.
Thank you so much for taking the time. And truly just fueling our desire to continue to take on the obesity and chronic lifestyle-induced epidemics that we have here in the States and across the country. So, Tommy, let's kick off today's conversation.
Let's do it.
We've got some good questions that came in. This one came in from Iveta, and she says, I've been listening to your podcast for a while. I've listened to all the episodes. That's incredible.
Wow.
Thank you. She says, thank you for doing this podcast with a bunch of exclamation points. In summer,
you're welcome.
I did an 8-week period of OMAD with periodic 36 and 48-hour fasts sprinkled here and there. My weight melted, and I felt great. Lost 10 pounds, but I noticed my hair started to fall out, which scared me, and I went back to 2 to 3 meals per day. I'm a 55-year-old woman, normal weight. My reason for fasting lifestyle is to achieve autophagy, have my body heal itself while losing some belly fat. High blood pressure meds, thyroid meds for Hashimoto's. I've considered signing up for your last fasting challenge of 2025 that's coming up and wanted to see if I would get anything different out of it than doing it on my own.
Nice.
I'm going to say yes. And by the way, it starts tomorrow.
Awesome.
But we'll be emailing you. The team will be emailing you anyway. My concern is that hair loss I got from OMAD. New hair is growing, but it's still falling out and is dramatically thinned. Do you have any advice on losing weight but keeping my hair? Yes, we do. This is a question we get.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're at a maintenance point, 160 pounds, 5'11", and drop those pounds during the kind of melt off over the summer period. So we run into a situation where we can still be over fasting, under consuming, and it can lead us
especially at
to,
maintenance.
yeah, especially at maintenance. And also, especially when we used these fasting tools to melt the weight off. And then now it's time to switch to a very, a better balance point with our nutrition coming in, our insulin levels. So, it's good to keep insulin levels low, but we do need maintenance level nutrition. Otherwise, the body, you got to remember, the body looks at mostly hair and nails as a little bit of a luxury. Nails are more important, so hair is essentially a luxury. So if there are nutrient deficiencies, they could be caloric, they could be mineral, and they could be
Protein.
protein, so that's macronutrient based, or they could also be micronutrient based. If anything is lacking, then hair can kind of fall by the wayside. Just biochemically, those reactions just aren't prepared to happen because the body has to shift those resources elsewhere, right?
Yep, absolutely. So two things you mentioned here. One is that you saw rapid hair loss with rapid weight loss. That's absolutely common, doing it through fasting or caloric restriction.
Yeah.
So it can happen. One thing that compounds the issue for you, though, is that when you have an underactive thyroid, again, we're going to talk about mineral support, micronutrient, macronutrient support. That's also going to compound the effect. So this is probably why you're seeing some new hair growth, but you're also still seeing some loss because that is a compounding factor from a metabolic standpoint. So what happens with rapid weight loss is this will deplete, as Tommy said, your deficiencies in minerals like zinc, magnesium, selenium. Selenium specifically important for thyroid, so 2 to 3 Brazil nuts a day, as well as iron, B vitamins, and protein are all critical and crucial for those hair growth cycles. So the Hashimoto's compounds the effect if you're doing those longer aggressive fasts. So the good news is you're now at maintenance. So what we need to do, like Tommy was foreshadowing there, is we need to prioritize electrolyte and mineral supplementation. So this is going to be using natural unrefined salts like Redmond salt, Himalayan salt, trace mineral supplementation, almost like as a micronutrient multivitamin, right? Because magnesium, potassium, sodium, zinc. So all of those natural Celtic salts, Baja Golds, they have all of the trace minerals, all 74 to 86 to 92, depending on which salt you use. All the main ones, plus all the micro ones like the borons and all the little ones that truly allow your body to be nourished and supported. So when you don't want to be continuing to do those longer fasts. If you are going to do a 2 to 3 day fast, you want to do that maybe once a quarter now that you're at maintenance, and really use more of a more open nutrition opportunity. So we don't want to go back to eating 3 to 4 meals a day plus snacks, but a really good like 2 meal a day protein paste. So looking for 40% protein. So if you typically eat 3 eggs, make it 6. If you typically eat a small steak, add another half portion. You're eating a turkey burger, add a second patty, those types of things. Use Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. Make sure that you're getting natural sources of protein. Then alongside with the micronutrients and the trace mineral supplementation, you're going to be really giving your body what it needs to counteract the hypothyroid state. You're going to come out of that aggressive fasting state, and you really want to give it about 2 to 3 months to normalize. So the good news is that you've already seen that transition take place, and it's mostly temporary, but you have to be intentional with your mineral, micro, and macronutrients. So minerals and then protein supplement support to make sure that you're giving your body what it needs.
Yeah, and remember that iodine is also a very specific trace mineral as well. You won't see it listed on a lot of the trace mineral bottles, but you will see it listed on a lot of multivitamins. So make sure your multivitamin has a good source of iodine in it. Iodine is also, it's crucial for hair formation because of the processes that it goes through within the thyroid as well. So it's all related, but it's all part of, if you're eating a whole food balanced diet, most of the time, and like you said, Scott, those nutrition opportunities are more open, not without structure and boundaries, but at the same time allowing you to get enough, sufficient maintenance nutrition in most days. Then your body's going to be able to find what it needs when it needs to actually produce those things like the hair. And then when you are doing those longer fasts, think about an extra meal or two During the days, like maybe 1 or 2 days before that longer fast, and
Yep,
or
mainly
after
protein
that. Yeah, right.
and healthy fats.
And after that longer fast, you can even do an additional mini meal, maybe 500 calories of mostly proteins with healthy fats
Yep.
before and after that longer fast. And that means that on any given day, you're not necessarily getting 100% of your nutrition, especially during like a 2 or 3 day fast. If you do that like once a month, but on average over that week, you still were able to get in maintenance level nutrition. Does that make sense?
It does. One thing I want to make clarity too is because you'll see the hair loss market, you'll see things like biotin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So initially I did mention B vitamins, right? These deficiencies. So all the minerals, zinc, magnesium, selenium, iron, B vitamins, right? So I mentioned that. So biotin is marketed out there for hair and nail growth, right?
Right.
So biotin is a B vitamin, specifically B7. It does play a crucial role in hair growth, but if you're just supplementing with biotin and you're not getting healthy fats, carbs, and proteins, primarily protein, the B vitamin doesn't have any substrate. It has nothing to work with.
Yeah.
It needs those proteins to then, so you could add a biotin supplement or a hair and nail supplement in, but I would rather you get most of it from food, supplementing with trace minerals or getting those micronutrients in from those salts that we mentioned, and making sure like more of like a full spectrum B vitamin. That might be something you want to add in as well, as long as you're getting the majority of the substrates, the proteins and fats from your food, because the vitamin only helps metabolize those. It doesn't help create it on its own, if that makes sense.
Great point. It's an accessory to that chemical reaction. Yeah.
It's a supplement. See what I did there?
There you go.
And I want to encourage you, join the challenge. You're going to get a completely different experience. We really talk about habit formation and personalized kind of schedule formation and building. We dedicate a whole day on day one, a pregame session that's recorded if you can't attend live, that we talk about how to make the schedule work for you this week. We also talk about maintenance and what that looks like.
And the holidays.
And all the science and everything in between. What were you going to say, Tommy?
And the holidays also coming up.
Oh, yeah, and it's November 19th, so it starts tomorrow. And it's right before Thanksgiving and then Christmas and then New Year's before the holiday slide can take place. So it's going to be a ton of fun. So, I would love to encourage you to join us. And we'll be reaching out, letting you know that we answered your questions. And then this podcast comes out on the 18th as well.
Awesome.
All right, let's transition to another similar type question. This came in from Becky. I've been listening to your podcast and started my fasting journey solely with just giving myself 3 to 4 hours before bedtime to digest my last meal of the day.
Nice.
So I love that. Right.
That's awesome.
We have a mantra in this house: nothing good happens in the pantry after 8 p.m.
True story.
So kitchen closes at 7:30. We have dinner. Kids might get a fruit snack or a cheese stick or something before bed. So I love that you're leveraging your decreased insulin sensitivity at night. So you're giving your body the ability to really prioritize sleep, which is key for long-term sustained weight loss. She said, "This is a big deal. I've been eating late night snacks since I was 14, since I had 14 years of pregnancy and nursing, eating 7 kids. I wasn't able to sleep when hungry. And I kept that habit an extra 7 years." That's great perspective.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize I could sleep just fine with earlier stopping times, right?
Yeah.
When you're in it, it's hard to see the forest through the trees. Lately, I've started making my fasting window smaller. Sometimes just eating 1 meal a day. I bought some Element electrolytes at your recommendation, but I really like the cheaper 0-calorie electrolyte drink from Walmart. It has a negligible amount of sugar from sucralose. We'll talk about those in a second. I'm wondering, would that affect my insulin levels and ruin the fat burning mode? I sometimes add in the salty Element package so I get a good salts and minerals, but I don't like the flavor when it's just the LMNT. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate the wealth of information. So let's have the question around artificial sweeteners, because this is my favorite conversation topic of all time. And there's just a tiny bit of sarcasm in there. So, Becky, I appreciate your question. This is something we hear all the time. And the reality is that when we're looking at the artificial sweeteners, so the research is pretty clear on this. You're working on the thing that I think is more important, which is the behavioral adaptation from late night eating habits over years and years and years. So I love that you're putting that in the primary spot of focus.
Absolutely.
So
That's
we don't
the
need
big lever. That's
a
the big
huge
here.
lever. I'd argue that's the most important lever is the behavioral habit that leads to the food choices, right? After tens of thousands of conversations around a
Especially those
relationship with
evening,
food.
yeah, especially those evening ones, and that can
Yeah.
be those can be very highly ingrained and familial reinforcement. Through our formative years, those can really be just
Yep.
strong habits.
So sans pregnancy, I lived in a similar environment growing up,
hmm
right? It was
Me too.
dinner, and then it was,
What's for after dinner?
sody pop with dinner, and then it was, all right, we'll take a little break. We'll watch the Friday TGIF shows.
hmm
We'll get out the chips, the popcorn, the ice cream,
hmm
right? Those types of things. So I can relate to that being part of the ingrained habit, right? Because we, like Tommy said, in our formidable years, we kind of learn those habits, right, of the lifestyle that we grew up in. But specifically for sucralose, I'm not as worried. Now, I don't love artificial sweeteners, right? I believe less is more.
hmm
However, the thing I want to highlight here is the effect sucralose can have on the cephalic phase of insulin release. And what do I mean by that is the sweet taste may stimulate a small insulin response, even in the absence of calories, right? Because they're non-nutritive sweeteners, so there's no calories associated with them.
Yeah.
But the studies in humans show conflicting results. So some report minor transient decreases in insulin sensitivity. Others show negligible effects when consumed infrequently.
Okay.
However, chronic sucralose consumption, like large amounts, we're not talking about one pack of electrolyte mix here, over weeks to months may worsen insulin sensitivity, especially in those with higher metabolic risk, or those who consume it, here's the catch, with a high calorie, high fat, high hedonic obesogenic food diet, standard American diet.
Like in a diet drink with a high hedonic.
Yeah, you get the
meal.
diet soda with the double Whopper meal.
Yeah, I used to do that all the time. It was Diet Dr.
Right?
Pepper and other things like that with, a Chick-fil-A, value meal or whatever, and then or with a pizza, like a Friday night pizza or something. Put a big, 0-calorie soda with it. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, so I mean, and I don't think this is the case with you, Becky, but just give me the perspective on both sides of the aisle here. So if you are using this and it's not stimulating cravings or giving you that like, ooh, now I'm hungrier or now I want, if it's not stimulating
Something
that cephalic sweet response, then I think you're fine, right? And the fact that you're adding it in with the sodium, potassium, magnesium, with the salts, that's great. I would love to see you even like try adding in some mineral salt, like a Redmond's or a Baja Gold, if you don't love the element packets, because it's going to save you a ton of money.
Yeah.
And they actually have a recipe on their site too, where you can make your own at-home recipes. Now, we're in the season with 3 kids under 8, and multiple jobs and businesses and things. And my wife's in practice, and we have fasting, and then the consulting with functional. I'm like, I just need simplicity. So we get the element packets. Found a couple of flavors we like. We have a link in the show notes if you want to, on your first order. You'll actually get a free sample pack, so you can actually try some of those flavors as well.
Yeah. I love lemonade.
I actually don't. Grapefruit's still my number one.
Okay, nice.
Lemonade it tastes like watered down sock lemonade water to me.
You think so? No,
it's like muted.
You know what I found for lemonade? I put less water in it than I did before, like with grapefruit. So a little bit more concentrated.
Okay.
And that was the key for me. And a little bit more ice. And then, man, yeah, it's been a game changer.
So let's talk about practicality here. So for in Jen Stevens, stand on the shoulder of giants that came before you. She's been in the fasting space forever. She's very clear on clean fasting, right? I really want to talk about more long-term sustainability, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have that hard line in the sand as long as it's not causing you to go to more sweet stuff, and it doesn't sound like it is. So if you want strict fasting for autophagy and healing and metabolic reset, then I would typically lean away from the ones that have the added non-nutritive sweeteners. Yeah.
Yeah. And just go to the straight salt instead.
Yeah.
For your salt supplementation.
We have a rule: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
Yeah, so if it's helping you get the salt supplementation in consistently, like every single day, and it's not leading to those cravings, that's working.
Yep.
That's huge.
Stay the course. So great question. Thank you for the positive and kind words in your question, and congrats on making that big habit change and identifying it and putting a plan in place. So keep up the great work, Becky. Thanks for submitting your question. We got a next question that came in from John.
Okay.
It says, hey guys, new listener to your podcast. I started at 0 and up to 30 something now.
Nice.
You got a fun journey ahead of you, sir. Thank you for listening in.
Yeah.
Struggle my whole adult life with high blood pressure. I've been on medication since I was 20, so I'm excited to delve deeper into fasting as I am considering a trip to True North Wellness in Santa Rosa for an extended water fast. That sounds exciting.
Okay, cool. And we do have some great episodes on blood pressure for sure. Type that into the search, blood pressure fasting. You'll find some great episodes where we talk specifically about that.
Yeah, if you just go to on Apple Podcasts and you search Fasting for Life podcast - blood pressure, you'll see a bunch come up. Salt gets blamed for what insulin causes. And there's tons of studies that show the metabolic benefit of decrease of systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So I love
benefits with salt supplementation, counterintuitively,
yes,
right?
Salt in, yes. Yeah. Yep. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole now, but so now at 60, I have BPH and ED and sleep apnea. There's some evidence that a water fast could help. 195 pounds, fasting will definitely decrease inflammation. And that's at the chronic root of BPH and ED. Just like heart disease, chronic inflammation is the root cause. So I love that you have this perspective. I need to lose 25 pounds, so I believe fasting will get me to the proper weight. My question is there any reason to not fast every other day and on a feast day eat 1 to 2 meals in a 6-hour window?
Okay.
That's alternate day fasting, right? ADF, question mark? Could that be a rest of my life pathway? Seems pretty easy to do. Just eat every other day. Thanks. Really appreciate your podcast and expertise in the fasting area, John. So, John, great question. If you go back to Upton Sinclair's The Fasting Cure in 1911, he mentions that no sane man or woman would do 2 to 3 day fast over and over and over again. Right? It's just not for most people, it's not a long-term plan.
Yeah, it kind of sucks after a while.
It kind of sucks. But everyone's a little different. Your life, your lifestyle, your history, your routines, like we don't know.
Yeah.
So just like we said to Becky, if it's working, keep doing it. Right? What I'd like to see more for the maintenance conversation is, yes, you can absolutely use ADF, but on those meal days, make sure that you're getting full nutrition. Make sure that you're getting a full nutrition window, prioritizing protein, healthy fats, healthy, non-refined, non-processed carbohydrates, right? That's going to really create sustainability when it comes to your food choices and your long-term weight loss strategy. So I would say if it's working for you now, keep doing it. As you get to more of a maintenance state and you lose the weight and the blood pressure comes down and the inflammation comes down, I would say try almost to expand it to a daily eating window. And just start with an OMAD, then you can work up to a TMAD. But right now, I love your strategy. I love your plan. I love your intention. And I would say, yes, for now in a weight loss phase, it's great. But when you get to maintenance, you may need to pull a couple of different levers, if that makes sense, Tommy.
I think, yeah, it absolutely does. And I think that's great perspective, because what you don't want to see, John, what you don't want to plan for is over fasting and under consuming long term. But if you think about ADF, if you were using ADF strictly every single day, and it was full nutrition day one day and then a full flame day the next where no nutrition is coming in, that doesn't give you an opportunity to bring in maintenance level nutrition, maintenance level calories on a consistent basis. You might be at half, or you might be at a 30% reduction of your actual caloric intake, which means your body is going to have to adapt to that. And that's a negative adaptation that we don't want to force the body into. So like Scott said, this is great for right now. You have some fat that you want to burn off. You have some things that you want to balance out within your body. Excellent. So keep going with that. But as far as maintenance goes, we're going to want to adapt these tools to allow for some greater nutrition intake, so you don't have the issue of over fasting and under consuming, excuse me, at least for the long term, like during maintenance.
And that's not to say you can't do a week of like OMADs and then do a 2 to 3 day fast the following week, a week of OMAD. Like you're just gonna have to figure out what works and interpret, what your weight's doing, what your energy's doing, what your mood's doing, what your hormones are doing, what your blood pressure, inflammation are doing. So I know it's not like a direct, hey, here's your strategy, but what you're doing right now, if it's working for you, keep doing it. As you get closer to maintenance and your goal weight, we like to call it your forever weight, you may need to adjust those windows accordingly. So hopefully that adds some perspective for you. And good luck on the podcast listening journey.
Right.
It's exciting. Check in with us as well.
Yeah, no, we do talk about that adjustment and thinking through the fat loss phase and the maintenance phase in the challenge as well. So
Oh yeah.
that's part of the conversation threads that we go through in there, because that's a big part of a pillar of building a lifestyle rather than just using a diet. So we definitely talk about that too.
Yep, absolutely. Another question came in here, and then we'll get into a really cool conversation. We had two questions that kind of go hand in hand about running and endurance running. So we're going to do a deep dive on that here in just a minute about exercise and cardio and all that kind of stuff here.
Cool.
But we had a question come in from Terry. I was interested in signing up for the challenge start this November. I did a 10-day fasting for life course that was not live, but had daily lessons to listen to and a fasting schedule. Will this provide any new information?
Yes.
The course I took was a few years ago. Also, at what time is the live coaching? So, Terry, we'll be messaging you the answer to this question, but also going to answer it live because the last challenge of the year is starting tomorrow. You are not late. You are right on time. About 30 to 40% of our folks sign up the day before.
Yep.
In this last 36-hour window. Yes, it will be different. So what it sounds like you took was when we had our 10-day challenges, which were 3 to 4 years old now. And it was kind of like a DIY course. So it was like, here's your action steps, here's your schedule, and you kind of went through the material on your own. What you're going to get in the challenge is an actual experience. So we take you through live coaching. It's at 11 a.m. Central every day. And then we have a replay watch party where we take that broadcast from the day, we replay it, and we're in the chat with you, answering questions, getting to know you.
That's at 6 p.m. Central every day.
6 p.m. Central, right? And then all of those replays are immediately uploaded into the private Facebook group, our coaching group, so you can get access to it immediately. If you're not on Facebook, then we also get them uploaded usually within about 90 minutes onto the replay dashboard. The difference between the DIY and this is you're going to get the live coaching, the live experience component of it. You're going to be inside of the VIP coaching group along with dozens of other folks that are going through the challenge with you. So it's more of like the environment experience component will be a lot different than just the content and material. And you'll get a live bonus coaching session. So you'll hop in a Zoom room with us.
Yeah.
And
so fun.
And get to meet you, put names to faces. So there's a lot of additional resources now that are in the live challenges versus the DIY course. So
yeah, great.
If you have any other questions, please let us know. And it does start tomorrow. So let's get into the last questions today. There's two. One came in from TJ, and then a second question from Daniela.
Okay.
And they're both around this concept of fasted running. Okay, so my wife is a runner. She's done marathons. She's done half marathons. I trained for a half marathon once, and I said that I would never do it again. Running's just not my thing. I prefer to do more HIIT training, more weightlifting, more powerlifting. That's my background. So running to me is more of a torture device than it is a fun experience. But running is great for cardiovascular health. It's not so great for weight loss. But in this case, we're not talking about that. What we're going to be talking about is this concept of fat adaptation. And do you need the standard status quo runners club recommendations of gels every 40 minutes, carb load before the race, et cetera, et cetera. So let's get into it.
Do you remember that episode of The Office where Steve Carell
I never watched The Office.
Steve Carell was doing a run and he misinterpreted carb loading, and as he was in the race, I think he had Dwight go to Olive Garden or somewhere to get some fettuccine Alfredo, and he's just like pounding it back as they're getting into the race. So obviously he was sick as a dog. It didn't go very well. But that's to say there's definitely we hear this a lot, and there's some misinterpretation of it. But what I love here about these questions is that it's framed around, hey, I've been working on my fasting lifestyle. I'm already here. Do I still need to do this because I'm getting a lot of kind of pressure, or I'm seeing it, or I'm hearing it a lot? Will this help my performance? And so this is an angle from like a different side of the coin here that I haven't really heard a lot of discussion on. So I like this.
And if you go to YouTube University, you can find a bunch of folks that are fasted trainers, that are keto trainers. There's one guy out there, I can never remember his name. I should have looked it up before we were in the recording prep for today. But he did like 5 marathons in 5 days.
Oh, wow.
Like crazy level, put him in the category of I think there's a competition out there where you go to 7 different continents and run 7 different marathons in 7 days in a row or something. We're talking about like elite level performance. So for us mere mortals, probably not the right application, but I do want to talk about this in an interesting way of making it work for you. So TJ asks, I've just discovered your podcast, been one of the best resources out there today. Thank you so much, TJ. Thank you. I've been fasting for 1 month and I'm absolutely loving the way I feel. I'm also a hobby endurance runner. I'm thrilled at the recent weight loss I've experienced, but I will be ramping up my running as I start to ramp up my training for a February 2026 marathon.
Nice.
Can you recommend any resources that address fasting and endurance training? I can't find much of anything on this topic. Thank you, TJ from Atlanta, Georgia. So let's, excuse me, tried to choke on my own tongue there. Pardon me. Let's get into this. So running a half marathon in a fasted state is entirely possible for adaptation-based athletes, especially those, which TJ, it sounds like you are, or you're on the path there, who have already built up metabolic flexibility through previous fasting and fat loss experience. So most experts recommend carb intake every 40 minutes for longer races, primarily because most runners rely heavily on their glycogen stores and haven't trained their bodies to efficiently tap into fat reserves for endurance.
Yeah, the interesting thing there is that you don't have to necessarily be metabolically flexible or metabolically adapted, even if you're at a very healthy weight. You can be a very lean individual, but still not have trained your body biochemically to be very efficient at the fat burning process over the carbohydrate burning process.
Yep, absolutely. So talked to my wife about this, got her perspective. I also had an old patient back in the day. He was an Ironman. And he since moved overseas. So I don't stay in contact with him anymore. But for the last about 6 months before he left, he actually was starting to play around with keto and fat adaptation and ketosis. Because what he realized was he was hitting a wall with his performance, doing it the way he was doing it. And he's a really bright guy, super intelligent, went down the rabbit hole and put together this plan on how he could adapt his body to not have to rely on always trying to hit the wall, the dreaded running wall, right? Or the air quotes bonking, right? You're like, boom, I've hit it, I'm stuck, crap. Right? He kept finding himself with his training, he would keep hitting this wall. So he adapted this more fat adaptation, metabolic flexibility, ketosis, ketone production strategy, and he actually was able to increase his performance, which was really cool. Now, he's probably done 15, this might even be undercutting it. So John, if you're listening, apologies. I don't remember all the details. It was obviously years ago, as you know. But he might have done like 50 Ironmans or something, some 15, 20, some like really big.
Something crazy. Yeah.
Something crazy, right? I say it's crazy, but it was something that he was really good at and loved to do.
Awesome.
So here's running in a fasted state. If you're accustomed to running fasted for up to 75 minutes, which it sounds like you are, and you've completed a 10K fasted with no issues, you've likely hit the place where your ability to burn fat for energy, that effort, that metabolic underpinning in your body is probably there and ready to roll. Because there are people that run half marathons and full marathons fully fasted with no gels. Now, here's the catch, especially if the pace is aerobic and not all out.
Yeah.
So others use a small carb boost only if they feel depleted, typically between that 8 to 10 mile kind of wall that typically hits, right? So you might use a single gel. You might use my wife used to make these at-home fruit-based pastes with like honey and dates and these types of things.
What about like a keto ball? You know, like one of those energy bombs, like a keto energy bomb. I don't know how that would sit on your stomach, so or how quickly you could consume it. So maybe there would be more a more liquefied version that you could do.
Yeah, so I want to outline just the recommendations versus the fat adaptation. So I just went down the research and just pulled out some things of the standard guidelines so we can do a comparative. Then we'll get into Daniela's question as well, which is about running. So the standard guidelines are about 30 to 60 grams of carbs per hour, gels every around 40 minutes. In the fat adapted athlete, which it sounds like you are, it's not always necessary for fat adapted runners because you've already experienced this. You've been like, wow, I feel great. I'm able to do it. So as you ramp up, you're just going to have to play around with how your body feels. And if you do hit that wall, what strategies you can implement that align with your goals. The race prep is typically, I've never watched The Office, but don't do the Olive Garden fettuccine Alfredo.
Right.
But typically the race prep recommendation is carb heavy meals 2 to 4 hours pre-run. Fat adapted runners typically will skip this. And then post-run recovery typically is carb intake prioritized after these long runs. But for the fat adapted athlete, it's going to be more proteins, minerals, and then carbs as needed.
Yeah. So then the tricky part about these recommendations is that if you're living a fasting lifestyle, you're used to being in more of a state of being in a state of ketosis rather than just a state of constant carbohydrate burning. It's that in order to kind of comply with or get the carbohydrate-based results from these recommendations, you're really pushing for more glycogen repletion more of the time, so that you're almost
like where's that short-term energy hit coming from?
Yeah, because you know you're going to need it, and that's what you're relying on, and you have to basically time your meals and snacks around that, so you have enough of a glycogen store, so that you're not getting into your workout or your race day, more importantly, and then hitting that dreaded wall. And so that's tough. That's tough to have that balance, because in order to feel good and feel confident
Lots of variables.
about that, there is a lot of variables. So your one control point would be to overdo it on more calories and more carbohydrate-based calories more of the time, which means that you're going to be in a higher insulin state, and you're more likely to be seeing the scale stay the same, but much more likely to be going up. So it's tough to kind of maintain control over the scale, over your blood work, over how you feel, over how you're sleeping, and be on the right side of this kind of carbohydrate intake. So that's especially tricky if you're a runner and you have a few extra pounds, or you'd like to drop a few pounds, or you have some issues with your blood work or how you're feeling. You're trying to use fasting, but you're also trying to, maximize your race day performance too.
Yep. So TJ, here's a few things you can do. Hydration is critical, not just water, but electrolytes. Especially for those runs exceeding 90 minutes as you ramp up your training. For half marathons at a moderate pace, remember, we're not talking about all out here, you're going to have to test the limit in training. So try 90-minute and 2-hour fasted runs, obviously before race day. Monitor how you feel and adjust accordingly. I do want to add a caveat here. If you want to talk about insulin resistance and body composition and liver enzymes and chronic inflammation, chronic joint pain, metabolic prediabetes, metabolic insulin resistance, all of those types of things, I can speak from experience in that case. For this, I don't have the experience. So this is just a recap of like what the research is that's out there. So I just want to give you a caveat. This isn't me being like, oh yeah, just do this. This is really just looking at what's out there, looking at the recommendations, and then adapting it to a fat adapted kind of runner mindset. So you're going to have to try and test these things out. But if you do feel these energy dips or the bonks signs or the impending wall coming, experiment with like a single gel or even just a piece of fruit mid-race rather than those frequent recommendations, because then you're going to be stuck in this like purgatory of trying to rely on glycogen, but then also trying to rely on ketones, and that's just not how the body works.
Right.
So you could just use like a simple piece of fruit or a homemade fruit gel. You can just go to YouTube University and look that up. There's a ton of stuff out there. But this is going to let you balance fat adaptation and energy needs without reverting back to a full chronic carb dependency model.
Yeah.
Recovery nutrition, protein and electrolytes first, then carbohydrates as needed to restock that muscle glycogen. If the running intensities or durations increase, right? If you're starting to feel that lag in your training where you're like, oh man, you're ramping up and you're like, whoo, this is starting to get tough. That recovery nutrition is going to be that much more important. And then obviously every runner is unique. So listen to your own energy signals, especially given your history with your large weight loss and metabolic flexibility. So you're not in the beginner stages anymore. You're more in the advanced stage. So you're going to have to play around with it. But I want to encourage you that fat adapted runners can and do finish half marathons and marathons. Again, doubling down on that hydration and electrolytes is going to be really primary before race, during race, and then post-race is going to be that post-meal recovery nutrition.
One last point would be if you find that there's a particular spot where you feel good up to, let's say, like that 8-mile mark, or maybe it's a 12-mile mark, maybe it's the half marathon mark, but then you go from a half marathon and now you're training for a full marathon, you might find yourself, needing a little bit of additional time to kind of adapt to that increased duration right there. So that would be something to kind of track your progress, note how you feel around which mile mark that you kind of felt, even in a state of ketosis, that you're kind of running into like
That
a
runner's
little bit of a
euphoria.
ketosis. Yeah, or like the ketosis kind of, not really a wall, but if there's a certain point where you're like, yeah, my performance just really suffered after mile 12 or whatever it is, that would probably you can probably continue to adapt into that
Build
as
into
you
it.
go into your training. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So TJ, hopefully that helps. Good luck with your training.
Yeah.
Daniela's question kind of piggybacks off of this. This is the last question we'll go over today. She said, I have joined 2 of the previous challenges. Yes, Daniela, we know you.
Yes.
So good to see your name come up.
Yeah.
And found them to be extremely helpful. I've lost more than 100 pounds, and I'm in maintenance mode. Congratulations.
Amazing.
My question is, I'm getting into running and would love to do a half marathon. Perfect timing based off of what we just went over.
Yeah.
All the experts are saying that you need to eat gels, candy every 40 minutes while running. They're recommended additional carbs, 200 calories before and after the runs. I don't want to get into eating more and more. Any recommendations on running in the fastest state? FYI, I just ran my second 10K race, fasted, and felt fine.
Nice.
So TJ, I may have confounded these 2 questions. I kind of took some of Daniela's and blended them into yours. So apologies on that, but hopefully it's still good, actionable results.
Yeah.
Even though we prepped, I kind of blended the 2 questions together. So she says, any recommendations are running in the fastest state? FYI, I just ran my felt fine. I do routinely do up to an hour and an hour and 15-minute running fasting, but had some concerns about the longer races. I suspect the half marathon would take me 3 hours. So incredible. So I'm just going to go back and say, listen to everything we just said, because it really that's going to be your plan in ramping up for your race. Is just going to have to trial and error. But I want to encourage you, Daniela, just like we did TJ, it's doable, right? John experience. There's a lot of information out there now. YouTube University is a great place for it. Just find someone, if you're looking for a little bit of encouragement additionally on what we've stated here today, just go find someone that you can follow. But I really think what we just outlined in terms of the practical implications will help you as well. And I just want to encourage you that it's absolutely possible.
Yeah, even if you don't see like a fasting runner or a fasted runner to follow, a keto runner would give you a similar, biochemical adaptation that you're looking for, which is basically just not being dependent on the carbohydrate glycogen repletion cycle in order to fuel those workouts. And having done those 10Ks fasted at this point, you're going to be probably a little over doubling that for the half marathon. I know it'll take a little bit longer too, but you probably have substantial fat adaptation already kind of trained into the body. So continue to lean into that kind of fearlessly, that as you kind of stepwise progression towards your half marathon, I think you're going to find that you're able to kind of, push into and adapt into that.
So I just did a quick search. So Zach Bitters, he has a great podcast episode conversation around low carb nutrition approach for running. So Zach Bitters, ZachBitters. And then Dr. Will O'Connor has a keto running fuel kind of strategy and using a strategic approach to minimize the carbohydrate intake during a keto diet and optimizing that for running. So those are a couple places that you can just go look and start with. And if you have any further questions or practical action steps that we didn't, or questions about the things that we mentioned in terms of the practical application steps that we shared just a minute ago, feel free to reach out with any follow-up questions. But I'm excited for both of you. It seems like you're in a really great metabolic state to be able to push the window here. As you ramp up your training, both Daniela and TJ, you'll just have to listen to your body, play around with some different tools, and see how you feel. But congrats on setting a goal. Congrats on the 100-pound weight loss. Congrats just overall on the work that you've done up until this point. And TJ, welcome to the Fasting for Life Club. So
that's so awesome. What a shout out to finding an activity that you look forward to, that you're excited to do, and that you're training for as well. I mean, look for those exercise and activity based dopamine hits. Like you don't have to be a runner. Like Scott and I, we're not runners. I don't get dopamine hits if I have to run. So, but finding activities where you do get dopamine hits and you can train for something or look forward to something is incredible. And it doesn't have to be for fat loss purposes. And if we think about it in a way that this is something that I enjoy, I'm going to look forward to, and it's not for fat loss purposes, then it just becomes, part of enjoying your fasting lifestyle and not just trying to, cut down on the calorie intake a little bit or kind of, bring the balance down for your energy intake, right?
Yep, absolutely. So thank you all for your questions. Iveta, Becky, John, TJ, Daniela, and Terry.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. Thanks for being on the Fasting for Life journey with us. If you guys want details or how to sign up for the challenge, it starts tomorrow. You can head to the show notes, click the link. And we are excited to strategically place a fasting intentionality before the holidays hit, so we don't have to restart in January, but we've got some massive momentum and we can make 2026 the best year yet. So
let's go.
Happy fasting, Tommy, as always, man. Thank you for the conversation, and we will talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.